When the mighty falls, the Zephyrian Alliance had ruled the Andromeda sector for over 3,000 years. Their crystal spires reached toward alien suns on 200 worlds, and their quantum shields protected entire star systems from the harsh realities of space. They were the pinnacle of galactic civilization, masters of technology that other species could barely comprehend. But on this day, all of that meant nothing. Admiral Vextar stood in the command center of the flagship Celestial Dawn, his elongated silver form trembling as he watched the readings on his holographic displays. The quantum storm had torn through their space like a cosmic wildfire, and now their most precious worlds lay exposed to lethal radiation that would kill every living thing within days. The storm had come without warning. One moment, the Zephyrs were conducting their usual business of trade and exploration. The next, a wall of twisted space-time was ripping through their territory, destroying everything in its path. The worst part was not the destruction itself, but what it left behind. The quantum storm had somehow reversed the polarity of subspace in their entire sector, making their advanced shielding technology not just useless, but actively harmful. Council Prime Elphra materialized beside him as a shimmering hologram, her usually serene features twisted with desperation. Her homeworld of Zephyr Prime was closest to the storm's epicenter, and her people had perhaps 6 hours before the radiation reached lethal levels. Admiral, what is the status of the evacuation? Fleets? She asked, though they both knew the answer. Vextar's three-fingered hands moved across the control interface with practiced efficiency, but the data remained the same. We have transport capacity for perhaps 2 million beings. The storm has disabled most of our vessels, and those still functioning cannot penetrate the radiation fields to reach the affected worlds. The numbers were stark and unforgiving. 50 billion Zephyrians lived in the affected systems. Even if every ship in their vast fleet was operational, they could not evacuate even 1/10 of their people in time. The Zephyrian Alliance, for all its technological might, was about to watch its civilization die. Have we received any responses to our distress calls? Elphra asked, though hope had already begun to fade from her voice. The communication officer, a young Zephyrian named Sylvan, looked up from his station with the expression of someone delivering a death sentence. The Altarian Republic expresses their deepest sympathies, but states their ships cannot survive the quantum distortions. The Corvani Union offers refugee settlements for survivors, but has no vessels capable of large-scale evacuation. The Stellar Consortium, ... double quotes. He paused, checking his display. They offer to purchase any salvageable technology from our worlds after the crisis has passed. Vextar felt something crack inside his chest. The consortium was already preparing to profit from their extinction. 3,000 years of civilization, art, science, and culture reduced to salvage rights. What about the others? Elphra pressed. The Nexari, the Voidwalkers. Surely someone in the galaxy has the technology to help us. Sylvan shook his head slowly. The Nexari claimed their dimensional drives would destabilize further in the quantum distortions. The Voidwalkers say the risk to their psychic navigators is too great. Every advanced species we have contacted gives the same answer. The radiation levels and quantum instability make rescue operations impossible. The bridge fell silent, except for the soft humming of failing systems. Outside the massive viewports, Vextar could see the twisted lights of the quantum storm in the distance. A beautiful and terrible aurora that marked the death of worlds. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vextar felt truly helpless. The Zephyrian Alliance had always solved problems through superior technology and careful planning. They had never faced a crisis that their advanced science could not overcome. But now, their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. Their technology was too sophisticated, too dependent on stable subspace conditions to function in the chaos the quantum storm had created. There must be someone, Elthera whispered. Some species we have not contacted. Some solution we have not considered. Sylvan hesitated before speaking again. There is one response we received. From a species called Terrans, from a system designated Soul, but ... double quotes. He paused, as if afraid to continue. But what? Vextar demanded. They are from a Class 12 Deathworld. Our xenobiological databases list them as extremely dangerous. Their planet is so hostile that it produces naturally aggressive species. Most galactic governments have placed restrictions on contact with Deathworlders. Admiral Vextar stared at the communication officer for a long moment. In the span of hours, the mighty Zephyrian Alliance had been reduced to considering help from the galaxy's outcasts. The irony was bitter. They had spent centuries looking down on primitive species, secure in their technological superiority. Now, those same primitives might be their only hope. What did the Terrans say? He asked quietly. Sylvan pulled up the message, and his translator struggled with the harsh, consonant-heavy language. The message is brief. It says, "Received your SOS. Help is on the way. Hold on." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Other species had sent lengthy explanations of why they could not help, detailed analyses of the risks, and carefully worded expressions of sympathy. The Terrans had sent 6 words and a promise. How far is this soul system from our position? Elthera asked. The navigation officer, an elderly Zephyrian named Telmar, consulted his charts. Approximately 4,000 light-years, Council Prime. Even with our fastest ships, it would take months to reach them. And according to our databases, the Terrans have not developed faster-than-light travel. Vextar felt his heart sink. If the Terrans could not travel faster than light, their help would arrive centuries too late. But something in their simple message had carried, a weight that the elaborate responses from advanced civilizations had lacked. While others explained why they could not help, the Terrans simply stated that they were coming. Admiral Sylvan called out, his voice rising with surprise. I'm detecting something on long-range sensors. Multiple contacts approaching at impossible speed. Vextar moved to the sensor station, his eyes scanning the data in disbelief. That cannot be correct. Those readings show vessels traveling at nearly 50 times the speed of light. No known technology can achieve such velocities. The quantum storm should make faster-than-light travel impossible in this sector. Telmar added, his voice filled with confusion. The subspace distortions would tear any FTL drive apart. But the sensors did not lie. Something was approaching their position at incredible speed, moving through the deadly quantum distortions as if they did not exist. As the contacts grew closer, the sensors began to resolve individual ships. The vessels were unlike anything in the Zephyrian databases. They were smaller than typical warships, with angular designs that spoke of function over form. Where Zephyrian ships were elegant curves of crystalline metal, these craft looked like they had been built to survive rather than to impress. Communications incoming, Sylvan announced, his voice barely above a whisper. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of an alien vessel. The creature that appeared was unlike anything the Zephyrians had seen before. It was short compared to their graceful forms, with pale skin and small eyes set in a rounded face. Dark hair was pulled back in a practical style, and the being wore what appeared to be a simple uniform without decorative elements. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Determination," the creature said, and somehow the translator managed to convey confidence and authority in the voice. "We are responding to your distress call. Please transmit coordinates of your affected worlds and current radiation readings." Admiral Vextar found himself staring at the alien captain. There was something in her expression that he had not seen in the faces of other species. Where the Altarians had shown regret and the Corvani had offered sympathy, this human showed only determination. "Captain Chen," he managed to say, "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Alliance. We are grateful for your response, but you must understand the danger. The quantum storm has created radiation levels that would be lethal to most forms of life. Our own ships cannot approach the affected worlds." The human captain listened to his explanation without interrupting, then simply nodded. "Understood, Admiral. We've dealt with hostile radiation before. Transmit those coordinates and we'll get to work." Before Vextar could explain that this was not ordinary radiation, that the quantum storm had created conditions unlike anything known to galactic science, the human had already turned to give orders to her crew. Through the view screen, he could see other humans moving with practiced efficiency, preparing for operations that should have been impossible. Admiral Telmar whispered, "Their ships are heading directly into the quantum storm. They will be destroyed." But as they watched, the human vessels plunged into the chaotic energies that had crippled the most advanced ships in the galaxy. And, impossibly, they emerged intact on the other side, heading toward the dying worlds of the Alliance. For the first time since the crisis began, Admiral Vextar allowed himself to hope. The humans had not explained how they could survive what others could not. They had not provided detailed technical specifications or requested extensive briefings. They had simply acknowledged the problem and moved to solve it. As the last human ship disappeared into the storm, Elthera spoke softly. "Perhaps we have been wrong about Deathworlders." Outside, the quantum aurora continued its deadly dance across the sky. But now, racing through that cosmic fire, came help from the one place the galaxy's advanced civilizations had never thought to look. From a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, where harsh conditions had forged beings capable of the impossible. Asterisk. Against all odds, the surface of Zephyr Prime had never known such desolation. The elegant crystal cities that had sparkled in the light of 3 suns now stood empty, their delicate spires beginning to crack under the assault of quantum radiation. In the underground shelters, 50 million Zephyrians huddled in fear, watching their airy cyclers struggle against the contamination seeping through even their deepest bunkers. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the central plaza of New Zephoria, the planet's capital, wearing nothing more than a standard radiation suit that would have offered no protection against the energies currently saturating the atmosphere. Around her, a team of humans worked with calm efficiency, setting up equipment that looked primitive compared to the sleek Zephyrian technology that had failed so. Catastrophic ally Dr. Marcus Webb knelt beside a massive crater where a quantum lightning strike had torn through the planet's crust, his scanner beeping steadily as he analyzed the radiation patterns. His weathered face showed no concern for the fact that he was standing in conditions that would kill most sentient beings. Within minutes, "Sarah, the quantum signature is actually quite elegant," he called out, his voice carrying easily through the communications system. The storm didn't just deposit random radiation. It created a standing wave pattern that resonates with the planet's magnetic field. Engineer Alina Vasquez looked up from where she was assembling what appeared to be a collection of metal rods and copper wire. Her dark eyes sparkled with the joy of solving an impossible puzzle. So we don't need to fight it. We just need to redirect it. Admiral Vextar watched this exchange through a communication link from orbit, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The humans were not wearing environmental suits designed for this level of contamination. They were not using advanced shielding technology or quantum field manipulators. They were working with tools that the Zephyrians would have considered antiques, and somehow they were succeeding where the galaxy's most sophisticated science had failed. "Captain Chen," he interrupted, his voice tight with disbelief, "our instruments show radiation levels that should be instantly lethal. How are your people surviving on the surface?" Sarah paused in her coordination of the relief effort to look up at the communication drone hovering nearby. "Admiral, Earth's surface is constantly bombarded by cosmic radiation, solar wind, and electromagnetic interference. Our atmosphere is thin compared to most inhabited worlds, and our magnetic field is unstable. We've evolved to handle conditions that would challenge most species." She gestured toward her team, who were now connecting their improvised equipment to the planet's power grid. "More importantly, we've learned to adapt technology to hostile environments, rather than creating perfect conditions for delicate systems." Dr. Webb stood up, brushing radioactive dust off his knees with casual indifference. "The Zephyrian infrastructure is incredibly advanced, but it was designed for stable conditions. When the environment changed, the systems couldn't adapt." Alina had finished her assembly and was now calibrating what looked like a giant lightning rod. "On Earth, we build things expecting them to break. Then we make them easy to fix." As if to demonstrate her point, she pulled out a roll of metallic tape and began reinforcing connections with materials that any Zephyrian engineer would have dismissed as crude. But as she worked, the radiation readings in the immediate area began to drop. Council Prime Elphara joined the communication from her flagship, her holographic form shimmering with emotion. "Captain Chen, our own scientists estimate it would take months to design new shielding technology capable of operating in these conditions. Your people have been working for less than 6 hours." Sarah nodded toward Marcus, who was now directing the placement of additional equipment around the city. Dr. Webb spent 3 years working in the Fukushima exclusion zone on Earth. Alina designed radiation-hardened systems for our Mars colonies. This isn't our first encounter with hostile environments. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of impossible accomplishments. Human teams spread across all 7 affected worlds, each group working with the same casual competence that had amazed the Zephyrians from the beginning. They did not possess faster-than-light communication, so each team worked independently, solving problems as they encountered them. On Zarian Beta, a team led by Chief Engineer Tom Rodriguez used solar mirrors and simple geometric principles to create radiation shadows, protecting the population centers while they worked. The Zephyrians had tried to develop complex force fields for the same purpose, but the quantum distortions made their technology unreliable. On Celestial Harbor, Dr. Jennifer Liu discovered that the quantum radiation could be absorbed and neutralized using common carbon compounds. Within hours, her team had converted industrial 3D printers to produce carbon filters on a massive scale, clearing the atmosphere faster than anyone had thought possible. But it was on New Avalon that the humans truly demonstrated their unique approach to problem solving. The The world's primary city was built on a series of floating platforms above a methane sea, and the quantum storm had destabilized the gravity generators that kept the platforms aloft. Conventional wisdom suggested that evacuation was the only option. Instead, Commander Lisa Park and her engineering team spent the night welding together a framework of metal cables and support struts, creating a mechanical system that could support the platforms without relying on advanced technology. By dawn, they had saved a city of 20 million beings using principles that had been old when humans first learned to build bridges. Admiral Vextar found himself spending more and more time watching the human relief efforts, trying to understand how beings from a primitive world were accomplishing what the galaxy's greatest minds had declared impossible. The answer gradually became clear as he observed their methods. Where Zephyrian science sought to understand and control every variable, humans simply adapted to whatever conditions they found. Where advanced civilizations built perfect systems that operated under ideal conditions, humans built imperfect systems that could function under any conditions. They did not try to restore the planets to their original state. Instead, they found ways to make life sustainable in the new reality the quantum storm had created. Admiral, Captain Chen's voice interrupted his thoughts. We've stabilized the immediate radiation threats on all 7 worlds. Your people can return to the surface within the next 24 hours. Vextar stared at the human captain, his mind still struggling to process what had occurred. Captain, in less than 2 standard days, your people have accomplished what our scientists believed would be impossible. How? Sarah was quiet for a moment, looking out at the crystal city where Zephyrian civilians were already beginning to emerge from their shelters. Admiral, we come from a world that tries to kill us every day. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, radiation storms, asteroid impacts. Our species survived by learning to work with hostile conditions rather than hiding from them. She gestured toward the improvised equipment her teams had deployed across the planet's surface. Your people built a perfect civilization in a stable environment. When that stability was disrupted, your systems couldn't cope. We've never had the luxury of perfect conditions, so we learned to make imperfect solutions work. Dr. Webb joined the communication, his face showing the satisfaction of a difficult job completed. There's something else, Admiral. The modifications we've made to your infrastructure aren't just temporary fixes. The hybrid systems we've created are actually more resilient than what you had before. They can adapt to changing conditions instead of requiring perfect environments. Over the following weeks, as the quantum storm finally dissipated and normal space reasserted itself, the relationship between humans and Zephyrians evolved from desperate cooperation to genuine partnership. The Zephyrians learned to appreciate the elegance of simple solutions, while humans marveled at the artistic beauty of Zephyrian technology. Engineer Alina Vasquez found herself working alongside Zephyrian scientists, teaching them the principles of adaptive design while learning their advanced materials science. Dr. Webb collaborated with Zephyrian researchers to develop new approaches to quantum mechanics that incorporated human pragmatism with Zephyrian theoretical knowledge. Admiral, Vextar stood once again in the command center of the Celestial Dawn. But now the chamber hosted both Zephyrian officers and human advisors. Captain Chen had been offered a permanent position as liaison between their species, and her practical approach to problems had already revolutionized Zephyrian crisis management protocols. Admiral, Council Prime Elthera said as she reviewed the latest reports from the affected worlds. Our reconstruction efforts are proceeding ahead of schedule. The hybrid systems the humans designed are proving remarkably effective. Vextar nodded, his gaze turning to the viewport where human and Zephyrian vessels worked together to repair the damage from the quantum storm. I find myself wondering what else we might accomplish together. Captain Chen looked up from the engineering reports she was reviewing with Alina. Admiral, Dr. Webb has been working on some interesting theories about quantum navigation. He thinks the storm might have shown us new ways to travel through subspace. Alina grinned, her hands already sketching modifications on her tablet. And I've been looking at your crystal technology. I think we could build ships that are both beautiful and tough. As the two species worked together to rebuild what had been lost, they discovered that their different approaches to problem-solving complemented each other perfectly. Zephyrian elegance and precision, combined with human adaptability and resilience, created solutions neither could have achieved alone. The quantum storm had nearly destroyed one of the galaxy's greatest civilizations, but from that near extinction had come something new, proof that the galaxy's outcasts and primitives might have more to offer than anyone had imagined. The Deathworlders had not just saved the Zephyrian Alliance, they had shown the galaxy a new way to face the unknown challenges that lay ahead. In the months that followed, other species began to reconsider their dismissive attitudes toward worlds like Earth. The humans had demonstrated that survival on a hostile world created capabilities that peaceful evolution could never produce, and in the deepest archives of galactic civilization, xenobiologists began to wonder what other dismissed species might possess the keys to problems their advanced civilizations could not solve. That the message had indeed been simple: help us. But the response had been anything but. It had been a revelation that strength came not from perfect technology, but from the ability to adapt, survive, and thrive in conditions that would destroy lesser beings. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever.